Welcome to Homeschool Tacklecast, the podcast from the authors of the Homeschool Tackle Box Handbook and Workbooks.
We're here to help you discover your children's unique needs as learners. We'll help you apply this knowledge and stimulate your children's motivation, creativity, curiosity, and learning excellence.
We are Sue Notestein and
Nancy Piercy.
We are veteran teachers with over 6 decades of teaching experience, and we come to you from teacherstacklebox.com/homeschool.
Loading your tackle box with the right tools will ensure homeschool is a rewarding and happy experience for both you and your amazing children. Today, Sue and I are going to talk about a topic that we call nibblers. And if you remember, the overall theme for this Tacklecast is knowing yourself and your child as learners so that you can teach your child the way they learn. So in each of our podcasts, we'll talk about a different way to accomplish this so that you can see that by the end of the podcast, you're going to have a lot of good ideas and a pretty complete learning profile on your child.
Have you ever gone fishing on a hot summer's day? I have, and oh, did I enjoy it. You sit there and you watch your bobber. Did you notice bobbers are always red and white? I've never seen a bobber that wasn't red and white. And it's out there with a worm on one end maybe and just sitting there in the water, and you watch it and watch it and watch it, and then all of a sudden it starts to bounce. Bounces a little bit and then it stops and it's very still and you're thinking, oh, something's going on, and you watch it carefully and it happens again. That's when you have a nibble. And we want to help you have nibbles from your children on the things that you want them to learn. So go ahead.
So a nibbler is a fun activity that you do with your child. And in doing that, you're not only having fun with your child and your child is having fun, but you are going to be in a position to observe many, many things about your child, which will help fill out that learning profile and help you to become a much better educator. You're going to observe things like their personal character traits, which you probably know pretty well. But when you give them a new activity, you're going to see new things, I think. Character traits like things that they're born with, the grit, the curiosity, social intelligence, gratitude, things like that. And you're also going to observe life skills. And, how well do they communicate, time management, problem solving, things like that are life skills. And when you are looking at all of these things, you're going to see what your strengths and the weaknesses that your child have. And then you get a chance, to maybe help them improve that. If they're weak in one thing and not being challenged or having trouble with challenging things, then you have a chance to give them a lot of strategies and ideas and help them build these skills.
It's really important to recognize that these traits and skills really overlap. We sometimes use one word and sometimes the other, but the fact is that the things that we're dealing with are important. And even though they overlap, they are very important to the success of your child, and it really doesn't matter what we call them. But so we will use them kind of interchangeably.
And, we say fun activities, and I don't know, Sue, sometimes, people are worried about that. I know we had a little bit of trouble with that when we were teaching, and, people were thinking we were not doing much because we were doing fun activities. So there's a good reason to do these, right?
Oh, yeah. I think it's really important to do them because when you do that work with your child, and it is work, even though it's play at the time, you're playing with your child and you're observing, and then you're writing down and thinking about the way your child approaches things, and then you're giving your child strategies to help them improve that. And all of that is building a better teaching, learning relationship with your child. You're getting to know your child better as a learner. And for you to take the time to play with your child and do these activities is very important. Don't think to yourself, oh, I should be teaching math and science. I'm wasting my time. I'm playing. Because playing is very, very important. And the time you spend playing will come back to you in many times by making your class activities and your child's approach to academics improve. If your child becomes a better problem solver or a better teammate or any of the other things that you can learn through these play activities, when it comes time to use that in the classroom, things are going to move more smoothly. And you will find that any time you have spent playing and doing this at the beginning is going to come back, and you are going to end up with more time than you thought you had, because they will do their activities, they will take responsibility for some of their homework, they will understand what you want when you want them to problem solve. So it really is important that you do this. Your child is always engaged when they're playing, and being engaged is something you want to have in the classroom. And so what you observe is very valuable, and treat it as that, recognize it as that, and don't worry about the time you spend, because it will eventually show up in how well the classroom goes.
So, in our book, we have really developed a whole chapter on nibblers and have all the information. So we just want to share like one activity with you, so you kind of know how this works, and we'll take you through the whole process so you can see what we're talking about. The one we've chosen to share with you today is called gumdrops and spaghetti. And what you do is you take gumdrops, different sizes, small and small and large are all I know. Maybe there are different sizes still that you want to get for them. And then, of course, spaghetti. And give them a limited amount of gumdrops, a limited amount of spaghetti, and tell them that the job that they're supposed to do is build a tower with the spaghetti and the gumdrops, and try to get it as tall as you can. If you're in competition, if you have several children, or if you're doing this with a group, you can team them up, or you can have a competition, whoever gets the tallest tower, however you want to do it. But you can also do it, just the child can just do it by themselves if they want to. And then you just kind of stand back and you observe, all the process that they're going through, thinking about what you're learning about your child. And you're going to find out that you're going to see a lot of different things. I mean, when you think about it, you're trying to build something out of gumdrops and spaghetti, and so there's a whole problem solving thing there. With spaghetti, is breaking all the time. Gumdrops are a little bit hard. Gumdrops are good. They're being eaten. Maybe you're not going to have enough gumdrops to finish the project if you eat it all up. They get, they're going to be sucking on them. They're going to be sticky. There's all kinds of things that can happen in this exercise, and then a child might just give up. They might just get so frustrated because the spaghetti keeps breaking or whatever, and you're looking at grit. Can they get to the end of a project, or are they going to give up? Delayed gratification. Can a child wait for the reward? Or do you just go ahead and eat all the gumdrops and forget about the whole thing? So there's just so many things that you can learn through this activity, and that's what you're observing. So for our example today, to kind of take you through this process, we've chosen to work with problem solving. Say my child has done the activity, and I'm watching this, and they're having such trouble deciding how to do this, and how to start the activity, and how to make it happen. And so I've identified that maybe problem solving needs that particular skill needs some help. And so that's what I'm going to zero in on to try to help them. And there's a strategy that really works well, and Sue's going to explain that to you and show you how that works.
Yeah, this strategy is something that was going to work with whatever kind of problem you have. If you have a math problem, it can work. If you have just an everyday household problem or a playground problem, it can work. And it's very simple. The first thing you have to do is define the problem. You have to know what the problem is and be able to see it very plainly, and your child must be able to know exactly what the problem is. Then you have to come up with several solutions. And this is a time to think outside the box. This is the time to come up with solutions that are kind of crazy, but that's okay. Come up with as many solutions as you can, or have the child come up with as many as they can come up with. And then what you do is you just try one. And if it doesn't work, then you try another one. So what it is simply leading you to trial and error. And it's something that you probably use all the time without even thinking about it. But sometimes if you put it in this little step by step by step, it helps a child to see how they could approach that. So if they're approaching the gumdrops and spaghetti, they might say, okay, I'm going to build a tower, but those spaghettis keep breaking. I don't know. Maybe I'm just going to stack my gumdrops and just stack gumdrop on top of gumdrop on top of gumdrop, and I will get a tower. And that's true. But gee, mom said it should be the tallest tower I can make. Maybe there's another way. And then think about it and say, well, if I can't balance the spaghetti by itself, it won't. I've got to stick it in, they'll come to the conclusion I need to stick it in the gumdrop. And then from there, they maybe will end up building a base and developing something that can get taller. But for them to think about that little process might help them in their problem solving.
One thing to really think about too when you're working with children, especially, well, I guess any age, but the younger ones especially, make sure that they understand, like what is a tower, because you've used that word and they're trying to do it, but in their mind maybe they're building something a little bit different than what you imagined, because they're thinking of a tower in a different way. And you never know. You have to make sure that you're kind of on the same, uh, the definitions are the same, so you know that you're working with the same problem, and which could make it impossible for them to actually accomplish something if their idea of tower is really, really strange. An example, when my child was young, there was a television show. It was a cartoon show, and an adult. I think he was dressed as a clown. Was the MC or the host for the show, and they would invite kids on for birthday parties, and then show cartoons and have cake and all this sort of thing. And my son was only about 3 or 4 at the time, and he did not like that show for some reason. And he did get an invitation to a birthday party, and he just refused to go. He did not want to go, and I kept encouraging him, telling him it would be fun and all this sort of thing. But he just didn't want to do it. And finally, I just asked the right question, like, well, how come you don't want to go? And he said, a lot of people don't like that show, and they turn it off. And does it hurt when they turn off the TV and you're on it? I would never have thought that's the way he was thinking, without having asked that question. So making sure that you and your child are have the same definition of things and understand it is really important when you're problem solving.
And your innate abilities, what you were kind of born with, definitely hit problem solving rather strongly. Because personally, I love problem solving. Like I love brain teasers. I love to figure things out, and I my dad used to actually come to the dinner table and throw out an idea or a problem for us to solve, or a brain teaser for us to figure out. And I just loved it. I worked and worked and worked and figured it all out. And most of the time I could get it right. My sister, Sally, hated it because she didn't even know where to start. She couldn't do the brain teasers. It was just too frustrating for her, and she didn't like it, and she certainly didn't want it at her dinner table. And so that was a real contention that many years later we discovered. I told her, I said, oh, I used to like that. And she said, I hated it. She said, I didn't even want to come to the dinner table. See, I had no idea that she was feeling that way. But that was just an innate difference between us as to how we approach things. Now, I know Nancy has a different approach than I do because we edited for each other. And when she would edit a part of the book that I wrote that had brain teasers in it, I would say, well, did the brain teasers work? And she would say, I have no idea. I did not even try because she just hated them. So,
Yeah, I just got so frustrated with him. I really empathize with Sally. That's a tough thing to do. But I see the importance because on the standardized tests and things, very close to brain teasers, and you need to know how to figure these out. And I have to have very good direction. Sue taught me how to do a bunch of those, and how to approach it and how to do this and that was very helpful because it's helped me since then. But they're not fun. I wouldn't go do that just for fun. Daily problems also are situations, that you have to problem solve, and so it's always we're faced with this, and whether you know it or not, you're always using a strategy, where you define the problem and try to solve it. An example of maybe a daily problem that a child would have is, say your child's in band and in percussion, and they're sitting with other percussionists, and one is ornery and is poking your son, or disturbing him, or doing whatever, and your son's pretty serious about this and wants to do it, but doesn't know how to take care of this problem, and comes to you with it. And so taking them through the strategy on how to solve this would be very helpful for him, and just another way, of teaching this on, what are you going to do about it, and then let him try some things and see if it works or not. And if it works, great. If not, I guess finally you have to tell the teacher and get the teacher involved. But letting them, work it out can be very beneficial in the long run, for their problem solving abilities.
The the little strategy is very, very obvious when you use it with brain teasers. The old brain teaser that's been around forever and ever, is that the farmer had a goat, a wolf, and a cabbage. And he was on one side of the river, and he had a little boat, and he needed to get to the other side of the river, but he could only take one thing in the boat at a time. And so, how does he get everything across the river without problems? For example, if you leave the goat and the cabbage alone, the goat's going to eat the cabbage. If you leave the wolf and the goat along, the wolf will eat the goat. So, how's he going to do that? Well, you first you say, okay, my problem is to get across with all three things. And then what am I going to do? Some of my solutions. Well, I think my logical would be, okay, what am I going to start with? I'm just going to try all three of them. So I say, okay, I'm going to start with the cabbage. I'm going to take the cabbage over. So the farmer takes the cabbage over, and then he looks back and, uh-oh, there's the goat and the wolf wants to eat the goat. So that's not going to work. Okay, what if I took the wolf across first? Farmer takes the wolf across, you look over, uh-oh, there's the goat eating the cabbage. That's not going to work. So we need to start with the goat for sure, because when we take the goat over, that leaves the wolf and the cabbage, and the wolf doesn't even like cabbage, so they just sit there. All right, so we take the goat first. That's a step in the right direction. Now, what are we going to do? Okay, if I go back and get anything, let's say I get the cabbage and I bring it over, what's going to happen? If I leave it with that goat, the goat's going to eat the cabbage. I cannot leave the cabbage with the goat. What do I do? Well, if I leave the cabbage, I could take the goat back across towards the wolf, leave the goat, grab the wolf, take the wolf back across, and leave the wolf with the cabbage, then go back and get the goat again. So you see, it's a little more complicated to try to figure it out, but you do the same thing. It's kind of trial and error, kind of fun for me.
Yes, for you, for you.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah,
emphasize that. Let's
yeah.
emphasize that.
Yeah. And we try to give you some strategies that you can use in the long run over time to help your kids. For example, when you should model problem solving, you do it all the time. You should make yourself aware of when it happens. Maybe you're making cookies and you run out of something, or you don't have enough chocolate chips, and you decide, okay, I'm going to just have less chocolate chips, and try to figure out what you're going to do about it. You're problem solving, and when you do that, you can always share that with your kids. And if it doesn't work, you can say, oh, and that didn't work at all. Look at what happened. And so it's a good thing to model those problem solving steps. And then it'll get better ingrained in your kids, so they're doing it without thinking about it. And another thing is, use open-ended questions and open-ended approaches with your children when they're learning. Now, a lot of times the old school way to do it was to memorize dates and places, and so you'd be filling in the blanks of so and so and put the name in, and there's a right answer for every blank. But you know what? That is not going to teach your child to stretch his brain. What you want is for them to grow and to learn how to learn and not just fill in the blank. This is like, filling the bucket or lighting the fire. If you're just giving facts, then that's filling the bucket. So you want to use an open ended approach. And instead of asking what day did the fight at Gettysburg start in the Civil War, maybe put in an open ended question like, how did the guys in blue feel as they approached Gettysburg? How do you think they felt? Now, there's a bunch of answers for that, and every answer can be right. And the child is free to let their mind think up several things, and you just encourage them. That's what it is to be an open ended approach.
And as you work with your child, you want to make sure that you are always positively reinforcing their solutions. Uh, that they're going to come up with, things that don't work, of course. But you can be encouraging, not be really careful not to say anything disparaging or to slow them down or make them think that they can't solve it. Just be really encouraging and positive in what you're doing, and then acknowledge their efforts, and respecting what they're doing, and encouraging them to complete this, because it can get really frustrating if you have a really hard problem to solve, and so you want to make sure that everybody's encouraging and working with the child that's trying to come up with solutions.
You can read problem solving books together. A lot of times you're reading to your kids, pick out books that have problem solving in them and show the kids where that is and let them pick out some solutions and things. Mysteries are good for that. And then do it yourself projects are wonderful because the kid has to problem solve while they're putting together a model airplane or something. And granted, they might get stuck, but it's still the process that's important. And if they do get stuck and if they are frustrated, the thing for you to watch for is if that frustration gets to be extreme and they're so frustrated they're just going to be in tears and they're going to be just beating their hands on the floor. I mean, you don't need this. No, that is too much. You can help them by hinting, and you can strategically guide them without telling them exactly what they need to do. And you will learn to do that. It just will come second nature to you after a while. And it's the very best way to get your kid to stretch their brain.
So I know it's very difficult to watch your children struggle, and it's hard to step back and let them, solve the problem, because you want to help them. You always want to help them. A friend of mine was visiting with her two daughters. One was 2 and one was 3, and we were at a park, and they wanted to drink from a drinking fountain, and honestly, neither one of them could reach it. And they tried, and they tried to get up on it and all that sort of thing, and couldn't make it happen. And so I was getting up, to go help them, and she said, "No, no, 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 just wait. Let's just see what they do." And sure enough, they did, what you could do to solve it. One got down on their knees, and the other one got on their back and had a drink, and then the other one got down on their knees, and that one got on their back and had a drink, and they were happy and solved their problem, and off they went. And that really taught me a lesson, watching that, that I also needed to stand back, because I'm always jumping in, and that's not helping anybody. So today, I hope that we have been able to show you how these nibblers are really good in learning about your child, and filling out that learning profile that will make it so much easier for you to work with your child. And
Well, we also hope that we give you some strategies that you can use in daily life and in the classroom. And those strategies will help you to help your child to strengthen the things that they're challenged with. And in doing so, it will improve your teaching learning relationship with that child. You're going to understand them so much better as a learner. And that's our goal here. And
right.
this was just one example that we used. One fun activity, and then one thing that we were looking for the problem solving in it. Nancy, what do you think about next time doing a different one?
I think that's a good idea. I think that it'll be very different if we talk about a character trait, and I think a good one will be empathy, because I don't know if people know that you can actually help people improve being empathetic. And if you find out that your child is not as empathetic as you would like them to be, we've got some ideas for that, and Nibbler Activities to help you observe that. So we hope that you will join us for that new podcast and another way to fill in the learning profile of your child. Thank you for listening to our Homeschool Tacklecast today. We invite you to join us next time as we cast our line into new and innovative strategies to help you keep your children engaged and excited about learning.
We suggest you go to our website, teacherstacklebox.com/homeschool, and explore what we have to offer in the Homeschool Tacklebox Handbook and also in the teen and elementary workbooks for your children.
Feel free to email us through the contact page on our website. We promise to respond to your questions, comments, and concerns in a timely manner.
Until another day, bait your hook, cast your line, and let's go fishing.